Welcome, everybody, to the Wholesaling Inc. podcast. It is your host, Brent Daniels, and you are listening to the number one podcast when it comes to learning how to wholesale real estate. Now, it's not only learning that we're doing here, we're giving instruction. We're giving you the exact step-by-step actions to take so that you can go out and be absolutely successful. That's why we're the number one podcast on planet Earth when it comes to not only the amount of audience members, but the amount of audience members that take action. That is the most important. And remember, it doesn't matter what you're doing right now. It doesn't matter if you're listening to this and you are a teacher or a nurse or you're in the military or you're driving or you are whatever industry you're in, because I've got an interview here with a guy that was in a completely different path in life and had found wholesaling and has just made a huge impact, not only for himself and his family, but for the people that he is supporting and teaching and coaching and just giving a lot of love to. And that is why it is my absolute pleasure to introduce Chris Mayfield to this podcast. Say hello.
Hey, man, what's up? I'm glad to be here. Very impressed with TTP. I love it. Love the tribe.
Well, here's the thing, Chris. You know, you have a very unique and interesting, and you come from a very deep leadership background. So why don't you let everybody know who you are and kind of what your path was, what your progress was to doing your first deal, and then we'll go on and get to the real exciting stuff about what you've got going on now.
Sure. So I came out of the pastoral world. I'm still in that. I'm still influencing pastors, working with mainly entrepreneurial leaders within the church, which tend to be church planters who are willing to go pioneer and start something from scratch. 2005, I went to Seattle, Washington to do that. Came here to do the same thing. The church I was working with, it was just kind of an interesting situation. A pastor's wife died and some other things. And so kind of left me in a situation to say, I love what I'm doing, but I also want to take care of my family. I want to love my family well. About that time, a church planter in Denver who was hugely successful in wholesaling before it was popular said, hey, man, what are you doing? I called and I said, something's happening in your life. He explained it. He flew down here. Got a hotel room in downtown Phoenix. I walked in because I didn't know what I was going to do. I walked in within 5 minutes. He had me on his cell phone calling leads in Denver, Colorado, teaching me how to call and get something under contract.
Incredible.
It kind of freaked me out. And so here's what it is. My theme is this: keep going. But in those moments of learning, it's get comfortable being uncomfortable. And if you can get comfortable being uncomfortable, you will excel at TTB.
So just in wholesaling, right?
In any aspect of wholesaling.
So in sourcing these deals, so you walked in and this guy, a mentor of yours?
I had been helping him because his family was going through tough stuff in church planting. His wife with the delivering of children and stuff. And so my wife and I we have a heart for people, and we were in the same network with church planting. Yep. So we became friends at a thing in Aspen or in Vail. And I was in Seattle, he was in Denver, but then I ended up here. He was actually interested in the Phoenix market.
Sure.
Flew down here and said, here's the deal. We'll split a wholesale deal 70-30. He gets 70 because he's paying for everything. And you get 30. But he goes, but I want the first 10 houses that we buy a sub 2. Well, I didn't know. Okay. All right.
Whatever.
Now, in the short time of reading between him flying down here, I said, hey, I'll give you the first 10 houses sub 2, but I want 50-50 on the wholesale because I'm going to be doing all the legwork. Yep. He said, that's fine. I don't care. Didn't do one deal with him. He paid for 2 mailers, didn't do a deal, but I knew something was there because I lived here. And it was just a matter of me calling people and getting comfortable because I'm a pastor. I talk with people and just understanding what's their pain point, what's their pressure point. Why are they even talking to this guy they don't know about selling their house? And once I began to discover that and use my background of just caring for people, and that's for me. I don't want to take advantage of anybody. I want to care for people through the process or someone in my team so that when we finish, they will say good things about this transaction.
Oh, 100%. And how much value do you think you provide these homeowners, these property owners, these distressed property owners when you actually go and you make this happen for them? I mean, from
absolutely.
Your perspective, you're a pastor. I mean, you understand, your whole life is in service to others. Your whole life is trying to help people get past the toughest parts of their life. And obviously celebrating joy and celebrating and every, big achievements and just life events. But, a lot of it has to do with being in service when people are at, the toughest times in their life.
Yeah, and you want to be sensitive to that. I don't want to just hear the numbers. So
Right.
I tell my callers, if you can't make a connection in that first 30 seconds where you get a chuckle or a laugh or you find out where they live and there's a connection, it's kind of how do you sink a submarine? One chamber at a time. My chamber is I don't care about the deal until you've made a connection.
Love it.
Because it could be the greatest deal in the world, but if they don't like you, they're not going to sell to you.
So how do they make a connection? I mean, how do you train people on this? Do they just naturally have that ability? Like,
Well, obviously there are people that are naturally gifted in communication, but real simple. I just use the TTP script because it's simple, it's precise, it gives them an opportunity. Even my wife, I put her on, she's a realtor. I'll do it for her just so she can feel the uncomfortableness of it, of cold calling.
yeah,
But she's such a people person. And I said, see, the script is important, but it's the life that they hear in your voice. So for me, I want in the first 30 seconds for them to make some type of connection before they move on. Because if not, the people feel a very gray matter transaction. You don't really care about me.
Yep.
I want them to know, hey, you've got a problem. Let's see if we could fix that problem. If there's a deal there for me, I'll be honest with you. If I can't make $1, I won't buy it. I'd rather be honest with you, but I want to solve your problem.
I love it. And that's the biggest thing. That's the value, right? Where our income is equal to the amount of value we provide to the marketplace. It's a simple equation. It's like the law of cause and effect. And, it's just how often we're going to put ourselves in a position to provide that value. And are you going to have enough courage to be able to have those conversations? Are you going to be consistent with it? And are you going to build a business around it? And that's what you've done. I mean, so you went from, I mean, it sounds like what you were doing with the church was very fulfilling for you, right?
Oh, absolutely.
But financially, you wanted more.
Yeah, I have 5 kids. So, there's provisions that need to happen.
Yep.
God's always been faithful to provide, but I have a skill set that a lot of people in the church would always say, man, you could go out and do anything. And so in church planting, you have a little bit more flexibility, especially in the first 2 to 3 years than in an established church where they expect you to be there 8 to 5. But you know what? If you're a pastor listening to this and you have an 8 to 5, you can still wholesale. My goal, my dream is to teach. Oh yeah, I mean, thousands of people feel trapped, and that's my thing. I just want to empower people to just dream a little bit and chase after it. Because I'll give you an example, Brent. My first deal in a tough financial time. I was transitioning out of church, never worked any other job. I didn't grow up in church, but I had never worked any other job since I was 18 other than being at a church. A deal comes my way. A former guy up in Seattle says, hey, a guy's moving. He's packing his boxes, but he hasn't talked to a realtor or anything. His wife has just passed, and we've been ministering to the family for 2 years, 2 different faiths, too. We've been ministering to this guy, and we know he's moving back to another state because both sets of in-laws are there to take care of their 12-year-old son. And I said, man, I have no clue what I'm doing. I don't know how to really evaluate homes at this point. I don't know, let alone walk in a house and saying, this is how much it's going to cost to rehab. This one's in Seattle and I'm in Phoenix. Got permission. I get him a call, built rapport, built the relationship, ended up offering it to pay off his mortgage and put over $90,000 in his pocket. He took that to, and I thought he would just look at it himself, maybe a friend. He took it to the church leadership of his local church, which I didn't know. They said, sounds like a great deal based on the age, condition of the house, and your situation. Came back, signed it. Crazy part is with me being clueless. And for you out there that are clueless, here's how you get education. Do a deal. Yep. I educated by myself. So I get the thing signed. I send it over to Chicago Title, and they come back and tell me, you can't wholesale in Seattle. And I said, well, I know there's wholesalers. Well, you can't. Well, the lady that knew all this wasn't there. So for 2 weeks, I started learning about transactional funding, everything, which I didn't need. Come to find out, yes, you can wholesale. Instead of making 13, I made 26, which is originally, and I sold it to a friend, a real estate guy who understands rehab and flip. He went and took the pictures because I was going to throw it out there on a website and say, who wants a house in Seattle? I'm in Phoenix. He calls me back and says, my dad and I want it. Perfect. 10 days we were done. But the education of just hitting walls, saying, no, you know what? Find a way. When I made that 26, I was like, okay, this is real. This is legal. You can do this. Just care for people and you can make an incredible living. So
Find a way.
that is what kicked me off.
I love that, Chris. Not only do I love the find a way, but it's also like a what if type of thing. Well, what if I could do this? What if I can wholesale? What if I can have a conversation and build relationship with this person? Not like what if all these bad things, or what if they get mad at me, or what if it's
Right.
illegal, or all these other things. You know what I mean? All these things that kind of creep in our head. If you go with a what if on a positive side of things, what if I was able to solve this guy's problem? What if I sold it to somebody that I know and they got a
100%.
great deal and they're happy forever? We talk about it for the rest of our lives because they got a great deal on this house.
Oh.
I think the what ifs in our lives are really, really, really impactful because it really helps as long as you're directing it in a positive and optimistic and kind manner. I think that's so powerful.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then as I kind of started to learn, that's when I called you. I was actually on a trail walk with my wife. And I was like, I'm doing this and I'm gifted and I own a relationship, but I need to be in a tribe. I need some accountability. And you know what? Community. So for my background, nothing has ever come out of anything without community. The foundation of the earth was created by three. There was community before the world existed. So I was like, I can't keep saying that to myself and not be a part of a community. And I'm like, Brent is in my backyard. I'm not threatened to buy him. I mean, he's doing a great job. I want to do what he's doing.
Yeah.
So I called you guys, and I mean, you called me. Your guy called me back, and I mean, within 2 hours, maybe 3 hours, I was talking to you. You were setting me up, and it was like, okay, And I want to stop and say, I did a review, but that's what I love about you. I won't follow a leader who's not willing to do the same things that the people he's leading. And so I say you're faithful. You're constantly putting out resources and people just need to take it, consume it, and then go do it. You're available. I called you on your vacation. You called me with an hour back and I didn't answer. Called you back the next day and then you called me back again.
Yeah.
And you're teachable. Yeah. You're out there learning every bit as much as we are. So I love the tribe. I love being a part of it. I love the people I talk with on the groups. So I'm grateful because you need people out there doing better than you so that you can push 100%. Yourself. You need that push.
Well, that's exactly why I joined Wholesaling Inc. in 2016. It wasn't because I wasn't doing deals. It wasn't because I didn't understand wholesaling. It's because I wanted to be around Tom Kroll and Cody Hoffine and everybody that was doing a lot of business, more business. I mean, that's the huge thing. Tom talks about it all the time, without even knowing anything about you. If he can see the 5 people you hang out with the most, he knows who you are, right? Yep. He knows how much money you make. He knows what kind of faith you have, what kind of family you have, like all those things. And I really think that's a true statement, man. And I really appreciate you saying that. But
it's real. It's real. You didn't pay me a dime to say it. It's real.
No. But let's talk about you had texted and you had posted an incredible deal that you had done from picking up the phone and talking to people, right? Just picking up and cold calling. Now you obviously got this deal, your first deal from that, and that's why you were attracted to the TTP program. But then you went off and you did some amazing things. And there's really 2 that stick out in my mind. One was a traditional wholesale, a house. The other one was a piece of land. Can you break those down? Because I've got this silver bell here that's ready to be rung, and I know people are excited to hear some real life boots on the ground. What happened out there? So
yeah, absolutely. So the typical TTP cold call. Actually, this summer hired my 21-year-old and 18-year-old sons be my first, besides a couple other guys, local on U.S. soil phone callers. Because I knew they were capable. Yep. And my son made a phone call, went through the TTP script. Guy was absolutely interested. My son, because he's in the house with his dad, just said, Dad, I think this is a great one. You should take it. From there, I just got on the phone. Guy was in San Francisco, had a 3-2 in Dallas. Had a renter in there, probably been in there for 17 years.
Real quick, let me just preface this real quick. You're in Phoenix, Dallas, Memphis, and Seattle.
Yep, everywhere I've lived except Memphis. I've lived in all those places except Memphis.
Okay, so go ahead. So this is in Dallas.
Yeah, so I'm here in Gilbert talking to a gentleman in San Francisco about a piece of property that he owns in Dallas, Texas. Never walked foot, doesn't know what the property looks like, but he was in a relationship, and when that person passed, he inherited this piece of property. And so, just a cash flowing property that he's had I don't know, $400 a month for the last 8-9 years in his pocket, but he's thinking about going to Europe. He's thinking about, it's kind of time, things need to be done to the house. So I just built some rapport with him.
Sure.
And then, you get to that point, hey man, if I was able to pay cash, if I'm able to close this thing in 3 weeks or less, and that was important to him because he wanted to sign the documents before he got on the plane to go spend a few months overseas. And I said, no problem whatsoever. If that's your point of pain, I can make sure that we will take care of this transaction by the time you leave on that airplane. So I just built some rapport with him, asked him what he wanted, and did a typical thing, said, hey, I got an offer for $200,000. And I said, okay. And I knew that wasn't a legitimate offer. And so I just gave a good follow-up question. Now, again, this is after having about 10, 15 minutes of rapport. We've connected. He lived in Houston. I lived in Houston. I knew some background. He had a Northwest connection. I had a Northwest connection. So I don't ask these pointed questions that some people will get offended with until I know that I've gained their trust. We've laughed. We had a same friend or something where I know, hey, we're connected. And so I just said, hey, 200. Wow. I said, for based on what you described, the house sounds like it needs quite a bit of work. He said, yeah. And I said, well, have those guys, I said, man, far be it from me to get in the way of you making money. If you can get 200,000, I said, take it and run. And he said, well, the interesting thing is that was about a month ago. They haven't called back. And I said, okay, I can understand that. Let me tell you from an investor standpoint, if they buy that for 200, they're probably going to lose about $22,000 when they're done, even if they get top price, a full gut job. It's just the numbers just don't work. And he goes, I kind of thought that, but I said, absolutely. I said, call them back. You can get 200, take it. He said, no, what are you thinking? And I'm getting in the car the next day to go to the cabin. So I'm like, hey, nothing better to go on vacation with closing a deal, minutes before you start packing. So I said, I tell you what I'd be willing to do is 120. That's $80,000 different. But again, I felt comfortable because of the relationship we had at 30 minutes that he's understanding that was an outrageous offer. He said, I was kind of thinking 150. And I said, I can totally appreciate that. Again, you got to listen. If I tell people all the time, if you just don't listen to their number and just stick with your number, you'll lose probably 97% of your deals.
Yep.
You got to hear that offer. You got to listen. What's behind that offer? Why does he want 150? He's going overseas. He needs some play money, some spending money. So I said, I tell you what, based on what I can tell on the numbers, the square footage, I'd feel great at 130. If you would do 130, I'll come up an extra 5,000 if you'd be willing to sign right now, because I can send the contract over in the next 5 minutes. He kind of hemmed and hawed, and he said, you know what? I feel good about that. Of course, you're doing your dance, you're jumping up and down. I don't care how many deals you do. If you don't get excited on every deal, then you don't love it. And I love it.
Every deal.
So he signed. And what's cool about it is into that, I think we were going to make about 15. My buyer came back and said, hey, I'll do it for the price. I'm good with you making everything. But do you think he would be willing, because of the condition of the house, to let me just pay him a down payment and have 6 months to rehab the house? Well, for me and where I'm at, I was okay. And I called him back and I said, hey, we want to do the deal. Would you let us put 7 down now and carry that balance of that 128 over 6 months, and we'll just pay you interest only, so you're still getting cash in your pocket. And then at 6 months or sooner, they'll so you'll actually make probably, instead of 130, you make about 135. He did it. Because we did that, we ended up making 22,500 on the deal instead of 15,000. So all because my son picked up the phone and didn't worry about getting another no.
Right.
And then I picked up the phone and said, regardless of this deal happening, make a connection and see what happens.
22,500?
5.
Uh-oh.
There you go.
I love it. I love it. So it's just talking to people, right? And not
just
only
talking
that,
to people.
I think you did an excellent job. I think that, you don't get that much information out of somebody unless you're doing a really good job of listening to what they're saying. You know what I mean? We talk about talking to people. It's really listening to people. Talking to people is just the proactive side of it, but it's really listening to what they've got to say and being able to be engaged in that conversation. You want to be an interesting person, be interested in people. You know what I mean? It's so incredible how much we can get done by just asking the right questions, being supportive and using the right tone of voice and being engaged. Nothing is worse than when I hear a tone of voice that sounds disinterested, trying to pre-qualify somebody on the phone. It's just you're running uphill in sand. You know what I mean? It just doesn't work. So,
and I get it. People are nervous. People are nervous. My sons were nervous. And I said, look, guys, you know how old you are. The person on the other end of that phone, I've talked to some 70-year-old people that sound like they're 33 years old. Mm-hmm. I've talked to some 33-year-old people that sound like they're 70. I said, just have life behind your voice. Whether they tell you to jump off a bridge or no or absolutely, have life and engage in their life. I tell my kids all the time, you want to be you want good friends? Go be what you want. And I guarantee that's what will come back to you.
Yep.
Go be what you're looking for. So when I get on the phone, I try to listen to them and hear what it is that they're looking for. And I try to be that in that 5 to 20 minute phone call.
Love it. And let's talk about that second deal, that land deal. We've been talking a lot. It's been popping up here and there on Facebook, on podcasts, on the YouTube channel. By the way, if you are listening to this, you can see the full video of this interview at Brent Daniels Real Estate. That's on YouTube, so definitely check that out. But let's talk about this land deal.
Yeah, so the cool part is I can't tell you a lot about all the details because it's in Dallas and my systems guy made it all happen.
Right.
But I just watching TTP and you started talking about land and you got a land t-shirt and I'm like, well, I'm not an idiot. Let's start investigating land. And I did a couple of land deals. I'm actually about to sell one in Seattle because it was but I wasn't looking for it. It was a house and the house isn't worth anything. It's the land. Mm-hmm. So I'm listening and I'm watching what you're doing. I'm like, okay, there's something there. You just got to watch what people are doing and go try to learn. And so anyway, long story short, did a phone call, got on a conversation. Landowners, which are great because there's not that emotional connection with a piece of property that they went to because their grandmother lived there or they grew up there, or it's just a piece of land.
Yep.
And this was just a piece of land. It didn't have any issues. It didn't have any back taxes. It had just been sitting there raw. And picking up the phone, again, making a connection. This was my partner, making a connection. And I think he wanted to sell that for somewhere, I think he said between, because on Podio we watch, and I think we were trying to get 7 or 8. We ended up getting $14,563 on a piece of land.
That's what you made?
Yeah, that's what we made. That's what we made. And it's interesting. It's interesting. The partnership with this guy in Texas, Scott, came because I wasn't threatened by him and he wasn't threatened by me. And he was so good. We work together now. We brought him on with us, and he's good at systems, and I'm not. Mm-hmm. And so I've always learned in my ministry background and this, I'm probably good at 2 or 3 things. Everything else, I got to go find somebody that's way better than me and not be threatened by it.
Yes.
And so we did a couple of deals together on JV. He needed to find a buyer. I had somebody, but I just liked him, and he's good. He's good at systems, but he just made a connection, and then he went out and marketed it and just kind of got on a little bit more, and it went higher. And just for what it's worth, again, I say everything for no bragging whatsoever. With all humility, it's just listening and taking action. It's listening and taking action. We fail way more than we succeed. But every once in a while, you get on a little boat. And so just the other day, had a guy call us from a text message, but it's still to me, talk to people because we're still choosing details. And we made, we locked up one guy. We made 9, 9, and 10. Those are our profits on just a simple text and a simple phone conversation, because you can't hide behind text. You've got to get on the phone when you're ready to make the deal and make a connection.
Well, in our experience, we found with our texting that people will literally mess with you. They'll set up appointments with you and not show up or whatever else. If you don't get on the phone with them, you're making a huge mistake. And you use text magic? Because
Text
that's what people
magic.
are going to wonder.
And Brent, you are so right, because one day me and my wife decided to have a day date while my kids are in school, and I wanted to go see a house to maybe not wholesale, but maybe even just purchase it. I mean, we always wholesale, but you never know. And Brent's so right. It would have saved me 30 minutes to get on the phone and verify, because they set up the appointment, they knew the address, and I got there, knocked on the door, which was a tenant,
Yep.
but it wasn't the owner. And so you look like a fool.
Yep.
You laugh about it on the doorstep and you move on. But yeah, we quickly said, once you make a connection and they seem real, get on the phone.
Love it.
Really find out if this is real.
Yeah, and that allows you to pre-qualify them a lot more. It's very, very, very difficult to understand the emotion and the problem and the motivation of a seller over text message. It really is. If you're just relying on it to be just price point, that'll only take you so far, and it's going to disappoint you a lot. But once you can get them on, if they're motivated and they're willing to do business with you, they will get on the phone. And it's just incredible. So, Chris, talk to everybody out there, everybody that's starting in this business. Give them some advice. You've given so much great advice today on making sure. Keep going. There it is.
You have. I know it's so cliche, but you get so many no's and so many dead ends and so many rejections that I think your psyche begins to believe, I'm not good at this. I can't do this. But if you listen to people like Brent and the hundreds or thousands of these guys are training on Wholesaling Inc., if you listen, there's a thread in the story of everyone. They didn't quit.
Yep.
Right? They didn't quit. They never gave up. Every day, my kids see this every day. But you can't beat someone who won't give up.
Right.
Babe Ruth said it. Babe Ruth said, you can't beat a human being who won't quit.
Right.
And I think that's number one. And I know it's cliche, but it's the essence of what Wholesaling Inc. and TTP and to be honest, why I joined this tribe is there wasn't so much of an education push. It was an encouragement. It was, let us empower you, let us educate you, but let us release you. Yep. Let us release you and get out there and get some failure underneath your belt. Because my boys know the quicker you can get a no, the quicker you get to your yes. So number one, get comfortable being uncomfortable. And I'm telling you, you will become comfortable in this, and you will no longer have those nerves when you get on that phone and start dialing. And remember, that person needs help.
Yeah.
Stop looking at it as dollar signs and start going, I'm about to talk to somebody who needs help.
Yep.
How would I want to be talked to if I needed help?
Yep. And Chris, so you have 5 kids.
5.
You're in ministry.
Yep.
You're still making this happen. What is your income goal or your business goal this year, and how's it going?
Well, to finish out this year as a business, our goal was to be hitting this last quarter, October, November, and December, 50. August we hit 45. September we're gonna just with those 6 land deals, we're gonna blow through the 50. So I'm guessing, again, I have to talk with the guys that I work with on what, I started all this, but they're friends. My first partner is a friend. Mm-hmm. So I've got some people coming on in some other cities. So I feel like the first 3 months of the first quarter of the year are going to be somewhere in that 50 to 60 range. But then we're going to have a planning meeting to up that. And the reason why we're able to do that is we're starting to really build systems, listen to you guys, and do more than just the simple things, but start to look at, okay, there's a process happening. How can we throw gasoline on that process? And I got a buddy, he's a year older than me. I'm 47, he's 48. We're college roommates. He's out in Georgia, and he's approached me, and we're about to just throw him on the app, and we're going to give him some leads, and we're going to throw him on the phone because I love the dude, and I love his family, and I want to see great things happen in his life. Incredible. So for me, it's all about, I tell my team, I don't really care. I have a number that I want to make personally, but I'm not going to become greedy. Yep. If I can help so many other people, my wife and I, we're happy if we're helping.
And you're going to blow, fantastic. You're going to blow past 50,000 in September?
Oh, absolutely. Woo! We were at 45, 6, 47. And I know for sure we have 2 other land deals right now in Texas. And I'm talking to somebody on the phone right now So I know 50 is a done deal in September. So now it's going to be, hey guys, we should probably chase 75, 65, 75 for October, November, December. Now again, I have to give that ceiling high enough that seems almost unattainable,
Right.
but yet close to it.
And real quick, I just want to put this out. I know that I've already kind of started concluding this podcast, but real quick, because this is something that happens all the time, something you and I talked about. When it comes to when you're looking at these land deals, how are you valuing them? How do you come up with the value? Because this is great. Just just off the top of your head. Don't
very,
overthink it.
very, very simple.
Yes.
If I have access to MLS, I hop on there and look at 2 or 3 comps. But a lot of times I'm taking the Texas, the Memphis, or the Seattle deal. Boom, I jump on Zillow, Redfin, Trulia. I look at 2 or 3. I want to get at least 3 that have sold in the last year.
Yep.
I don't do a lot of heavy thinking. I get 3 of them. I put an offer together and I say, hey, I anchor low because I know I can come up. And I make that offer. I'm not worried about offending or anything.
Right. So let's just give a percentage here, and from your head. So if 3 properties sold for an average of 20,000, what are you going to offer that seller?
Somewhere between, if it's a $20,000 property,
yes,
I'm probably going to offer somewhere between 3 and 8.
That's right.
At the highest.
Right. That's right. Listen, guys, I'm telling you, if you get these comps, and listen. The TTP land, I've been talking about it forever. Tom's been talking about the Wholesaling Inc. land. It's coming out. If it's not out by the time you hear this, it is coming out in the next 30 days. But here is the basics of it. Listen, you can sell properties very quickly for half of what the rest of them is sold on the market, okay? Really quickly. So just work your numbers from there. There's no improvements. There's no anything. There's certain things that you have to understand, and there's more to it than that. But don't overthink it. People will give you land. I was talking to Chris before this interview. People we have literally gotten 3 this week where they said, just pay the back taxes. I will give it to you for free. It is so exciting. So you're doing it.
Yep. I mean, and it's just watching your videos, learning, getting on, texting you, saying, "Hey, how are you approaching land?" And you're giving me some. I don't tell our guys to overthink. I'm like, "Hey, make an offer." I know when you first get started, for all you newbies out there, and I consider myself a newbie, even though I've been doing it, but because I'm learning, is just make an offer. Because at the worst, they say no, and you follow up with, "Hey, I totally get that. You know what? You beat me. I made the first offer. What would be your counter? Give me something. I'd love to see if there's an opportunity there." And they'll tell you. And when they tell you that, you know if they're motivated, right? Yep. One of the best things I heard a few months ago, probably 6 months ago, it was either on Facebook, Wholesaling Inc. or TTP, was when. Asking the when question has cut down on wasting time, because if you can ask somebody when they want to sell a property, you could really hear some motivation. If they say a year, they're not motivated. If they say, man, I got to get this thing sold now. Yeah.
When do you want to sell it? Well, when I get the right offer. Okay.
Right.
Okay. I see what's going on here, right?
Yeah.
So, awesome. Chris, how do people get a hold of you?
Email chris@truehouseoffer.com. That's it.
Like true, not like T.
Yeah. TRUE houseoffer.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Just incredible.
Hey, I'm happy to serve. You've done a great job. You have a great organization. You truly care about people. I have analyzed, and I'm a critical guy, all the different things out there. And this is the one I landed on after asking a lot of people locally about Brent. I already knew I loved Tom and Cody's approach. They come across very humble. They come across very much, we want you to win. So I knew that. But having someone in my own backyard was something I felt like was good, because I wouldn't have to travel as much. So you guys have done a great job. I'm very impressed.
Thank you, Chris. And if anybody's out there interested in joining the most proactive group in real estate investing, go to wholesalinginc.com/TTP.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's wholesalinginc.com/TTP. Scroll down, check out what the program's about, check out all the testimonials. If it feels good in your gut, sign up for a call. I'd love to work with you personally. Love to introduce you to Chris here and the rest of the TTP family. So, guys, thank you for listening. You're the absolute best audience. Go out and take action on what Chris has talked about here today.
Yes.
And you will succeed. And as always, I encourage everybody out there to talk to people. Till next time. See ya.
See ya.